guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video of the most taboo romances I have read. So I just looked back and I've actually done this video before a year ago. I did it at the end of January last year, and I have almost completely different books. I have a couple that do overlap. These are all taboo romances, meaning they're books that people kind of side-eye when they see the plot, or they are books where there's a lot of tension and angst because they're not supposed to want each other. Some of these I would not recommend because they were too taboo for me, but if you saw the thumbnail, they are not all books by one author. I do have 4 books by one author, but then I have 6 other authors on here that write taboo romances that are very, very taboo. So like I said, I think I only have 2 that are on the same list as last time, but I will go ahead and get to all the taboo books I have because I love them. I love the angst and the drama they cause. I just really like a romance where you're like, I shouldn't love you, but I do. If taboo is not your thing, totally fine. I love taboo romances though, so I hope if you're watching this you love taboo too, and let me know your most taboo romances you've read in the comments, especially if they're ones you would recommend. Like, I'm aware there are ones out there that we're just like, this is not something we want to be reading. But if there are ones you recommend that are great romances, please let me know. So the first one I have is one that I've loved, and that is one from that previous video, and that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. I read this as an ARC, so I had no idea what to expect going into it, and it was a taboo good time because our heroine, her parents are very in love with one another, meaning though that they neglect her a lot because they're so obsessed with one another, and one of her parents gets a terminal illness, and so they decide to end their lives together. So she is left by herself, and she is not yet 18, so she goes to live in like the mountains with her step uncle. So it is, I think, her dad's step brother. So there's no blood relation, important to say, because I draw a line of blood relation, so I cannot read that. If you read that, you do you, but I cannot read blood-related romances. So this one, she ends up moving in with him and his 2 sons, and she has a relationship with every person in the house. She ends up with one. There is a scene with more than one person, but she only ends up with one of them, and I was rooting for one character that I wanted her to be with. She didn't end up with who I wanted her to be with, which is fine. But like, it's totally taboo. Like, it is her step uncle and her step cousins. They are technically related. Not blood related, but technically related. And they're snowed in a mountain together. So this was really good. I actually really want to reread this because, like I said, I didn't read it except for when it just came out. It came out in 2020. I read it in 2020, and I want to reread it. It was just a really good, surprising time, and I had a lot of fun, and definitely taboo. I am now going to talk about the Queen QB Tyler. So I actually have 4 QB Tyler books on this list, 3 of which I really enjoyed, 1 of which I didn't, and they go in level by enjoyment though, so I'll go ahead and go in level by enjoyment of how much I like them. So my least favorite is Unconditional because it was a little too taboo for me, and the heroine just read too young. So this one is actually a Guardian Ward romance where he raised her from when she was little. I don't even remember like what happened. So she doesn't have any parents, and he is the police officer that like finds her, and so he takes her in and raises her, and she falls in love with him and makes a move. And I don't remember how old she is, but he literally raised her since she was a child. So that was a little too much for me, and like, especially because I've read ones, I have a couple on here where like he was in her life since she was like born but didn't raise her, and this one he raised her. And so the fact that he was like a parental figure and she just read too young for me, I didn't super love this one. But this one I know a ton of people really love. I do think that this one is probably her most taboo one she's written because they had that bond together. So this one, too taboo for me, but if you like that taboo, read it. And then the other one that I didn't like super love, I still give it 4 stars, is Always Been You by QB Tyler, obviously. This one is a foster adoptive brother romance. So she has known him since she was little, but she's always had a really special connection to him where it was like more than sibling, and it finally turned into something more when they were older. This one she actually did write and make longer from a novella, and to me it read like that. It read like it had a main story, and then she was just like adding stuff to it, and that's why I didn't give it 5 stars, because I didn't love how the plot came together. But it is definitely spicy. Like, QB Tyler writes spice, okay? Her books contain lots and lots of spice, so definitely know that this one is definitely one of her spicier ones. I do think my favorite one though is like the spiciest she's written so far, but this one, she grew up as his sister, raised by his family. Like, his parents are basically like her parents, so Yeah. Then we have Love Unexpected, where it is a stepfather romance. And now in this one though, she never saw him as a dad figure. She's always had a crush on him because he was her teacher. And I think he was her teacher. And then I don't know if he became like, I think he became principal. And so he married her mom. And then her mom passed away and it's just them two. And because of their grief, they find comfort in one another and fall in love. And I loved this one. But I loved it because he came into her life when she was like upper elementary, so she hadn't grown up thinking of him as a father figure. And she had always like had that kind of crush on him and never like saw him as a father. So that's why this is not as taboo as the other ones. But this one, so good. They end up going to this like lake house, beach house thing and like falling for each other. So this was so good. But then the other one is the last one by QB, which is my favorite by her, is What Was Meant to Be. And this one is a dad's best friend. And literally he held her at her birth. But it was so good. And this actually second chance. So they got together when she was 18. And then I think they were together for like 2 years. And then he broke up with her and they were secretly dating. And her parents didn't know. And then he left and now he's back. And so she's in her early 20s and they are rekindling their romance even though she is engaged to someone else. And it's definitely taboo because her parents would flip out if they found out. And you know that's going to be a conflict in these kind of romances where like people are going to find out and you have to like deal with the consequences of that. But this was so good. So spicy too. Like I love this. I love the second chance aspect. I love that she was engaged. So much angst, so much drama. This one, my favorite by her of her angsty taboo romances. Okay, we're gonna go to one that I don't recommend, and that is The Wild by Kate Webster. I wish I could unread this book. It was just like bonkers. Like some authors like Jessa Kane, I don't read Jessa Kane a lot. I've read like 2 of her books and I know she has like a friend's grandfather romance. So if you want taboo, check out Jessa Kane. This one is a daughter-father romance. And I will say, people told me it was a spoiler, but I knew going in the spoiler because I thought it was common knowledge, but she grows up as him as her birth father. And it starts off with her by the pool noticing him. And then they were like living in this RV that fell off of a cliff and her mom dies. So then it leaves her and her father. The writing was not good. The plot made me so uncomfortable and I was just like, nope. I finished it. I read it for a banned romance reading vlog because it was banned, and I can link that down below if you want to see me read this one, but no. That's all I'll say, no. So then I have Power by Cassandra Robbins, and this one is a mom's fiance romance. I've read a lot of like boyfriend's dad romances like Birthday Girl, but Birthday Girl didn't feel too taboo. Like sure, it's her boyfriend's dad, but like Pike is actually like a really great guy and like he's not that much older. Like typically in those, he had like the child very young. So there's maybe like a 16, 17 year age gap, which like isn't too bad when you think about it. Cause I have another one on here that's only 15 years. And I was like, should I include it? But I did because it was too taboo for me. So for this one, her mother's an awful person. So her mom like doesn't care about her, doesn't even remember that she's like coming home, and she's engaged to our hero who doesn't even really like her, the fiance, the mom, because they're just like kind of using each other to get to places in their lives. The daughter comes home and the fiance, the mom's fiance, is immediately like, holy cow, like I would need her and I want her. And the heroine actually like invites her boyfriend over and the hero is really mad, and it is a fun time. Like I had so much fun reading this book. I really liked the hero. I liked how his chemistry with the heroine went. I mean, I think she was a senior in college, so she was like in her 20s. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was very taboo. Obviously, he ends up breaking up with the mom. It is a romance. There is an HEA, but definitely spicy too. A lot of these taboo ones just have a lot of spice as well, and I enjoy them. The next one is Torn by Carrie and Cole, and this one, he was literally an uncle figure growing up, so it is her parents' best friend. So I think her parents were the characters in the Ashes and Ember series. They are, yeah, because I read their book in the Ashes and Ember series. This is a different series. And so her parents are like rock stars or like in a band, and she grows up as with this guy, like literally as her parents' best friend. He is an uncle to her. And then she's a certain age where she starts liking him, and then they start getting together. And it definitely felt too taboo for me because I was like, he literally, and I don't know why What Was Meant to Be was different for me when like he was there at birth, but this one is only a 15-year age gap. So her parents were very, very young when they had her, but he read so much more as an uncle than What Was Meant to Be. And I think it's because What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler was a second chance, and that's why it worked for me because we already like knew they loved each other. together. And this one, she also felt similar to Unconditional, where she felt very young. And I don't love it when she feels young, because then I'm like, she's like young and he likes her. So this one wasn't my favorite, but I know a ton of people love this one. Definitely taboo. Another one I didn't love, but is definitely taboo romance, is Balance by Lucia Franco, and I do not know what version I read of this book. I read it the year that she changed it. So she changed a bunch of scenes and she changed the age of the characters. When I read it, she was way too young, and when I read it, he was asking her to do things she was not consenting to and saying, don't worry, you can trust me, and she's like, I don't want to do this. So I DNF'd this book. It was way too taboo for me. It is a gymnastic coach romance, if you didn't know. So she is a gymnast and he's a gymnastic coach, and I didn't like him. He was not a likable hero, and in taboo romances, I would like them to be likable. I mean, in Power, he wasn't very likable, but he did grovel at the end and I loved him. In this one, I didn't like him, and she was so immature. She was determined to be an Olympic gymnast, but like would not take the coaching seriously. And I'm like, if you want to make it to the Olympics, why are you not putting everything of yourself into this training and listening to your coach and wanting to be in the Olympics? She was being all bratty and annoying, and I'm like, I don't like a bratty heroine. Like, I do not like it when they're too young and act all bratty. So this was not for me. I also didn't like the hero. So I DNF'd this one, but I know tons of people love this romance, but I know it's definitely very, very taboo and has been banned before. So it is one of the most taboo romances I've read. He's also in a relationship in this as well. Okay, and the last one I have, I always end up including this author on these lists, and that's Pam Godwin. And I didn't include any other like captor-captive romances, but this one to me was really taboo because of the hero. So, and like how good he was. So this one, I was talking to an author friend about Teddy Hamilton as a narrator, and they were like, I feel like he's always like the good boy, like all-American boy. And I was like, well, he did a Pam Godwin, and I was like, wait, but he was like the hotshot football player who got kidnapped. So Delivered by Pam Godwin is about a hero who is like a hotshot football star who's kidnapped to be trained to be in sex slavery. And he ends up falling in love with the woman who kidnapped him, who has to train him. And this one is taboo because she is not so volunteering to do this, but she is someone who has to break him and make him into someone to sell to someone, and they fall in love. So definitely taboo because he's kidnapped and falling in love with his kidnapper. And this one though had so much just deep emotions into it, and that's why I wanted to include it. Like, I didn't include The Enslaved Duet by Gianna Darling and like other ones that I've read of this trope, because this one just feels so different because they're such broken people, and in the circumstances they should not be falling in love with one another because she needs to get out of the situation too, and he does, and they fall in love. So he falls in love with his captor and has to just see horrible things, do horrible things, and it was just a very intense romance. Definitely very taboo, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read more, though book 2 is about a character I hated in book 1, so I've not moved on to his book because I'm like, how the heck is he gonna be redeemed? I have no idea, but I really enjoy this one, and I highly recommend checking this out if you are okay with reading very dark romances. And those are all my taboo romances that I've read. Let me know your favorite taboo romances, which ones you think I would enjoy. I would love to hear your recommendations, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.